What's up, guys? It's me, your favorite host, Let's Play Dark Souls HD, coming at you with number 2 in the Newbie Guide series for Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. I decided I'm going to start using G rank examples, because low rank is really kind of boring. I'm just going to do G rank versions of all these monsters instead. So for my equipment, I'm using the final Stygian and Ogre hammer, and I'm using the full Dire Miralis armor, which is the last boss in the game. My active skills are Attack Up Large, Rock Steady, Latent Power +1, Punish Draw, and Critical Eye +1. And for my food skills, I have Feline Slugger and Feline Pyro. The reason I wanted Feline Slugger and Feline Pyro is because Slugger allows you for quicker knockouts with blunt attacks, and the Feline Pyro increases bomb damage significantly. So, yes, Mr. Barroth. He is not that hard. Right now, you're looking at basically one of his main characteristics as a monster. He is unique to this ability. No other monster in the game can do this. Right here. He rolls around in mud and encases himself in it and uses it for an extra line of defense. But not only can he use the mud for defense, he can use it for offense as well. Now, as you can see, he can shake himself like that, and it will come off of his body. If you are hit by the mud coming off of his body, it will inflict a status effect that leaves you unable to attack or use items, unless you have a specific curative called a cleanser, which will break the mud and allow you to go back to normal. Now, as you can see, making him go into rage mode or staggering him will immediately make the mud shaking stop. So, these damn bugs, I'm just going to get rid of them, they suck. But, this is what he does. When you break the mud off of him, he will roll around on the ground and he can encase himself in it as many times as he wants. It doesn't really matter what he does, but that right there, where he charges and sends them into the air, that ability is exclusive to G rank, but there is a catch to it, and I just got hit like an idiot. Wow! But there is a catch to that ability. If you can break his head and get rid of the mud protection on his crown, you will stop him from being able to do that anymore. And if you permanently break his head, as in break the crown off completely, he will not be able to do it for the rest of the fight. So that is what we're aiming for. This is the reason that I highly recommend using a hammer against the Barroth. Because when you break his crown, he not only loses the ability to send the mud balls up into the air and behind him after every charge, but getting carves from the crown is typically a lot more valuable than carving the tail, because more of his good equipment requires his G rank crown than they do his tail. So yes, us using the hammer, we unfortunately cannot cut his tail off with this thing, but we can break the crown like this. And when you break the crown off, it is worth 1 carve. So this is essentially the strategy against him. His main abilities, and that was a phantom tail swing. I do not know how he got me with the hitbox. But these are his basic abilities. He will encase himself in mud and shake it off of his body to incapacitate you, and he is also capable of very brutal head attacks. Not just charging, but he can slam his head directly down on the ground for pretty decent damage. The tail swipe really isn't that bad. You don't need to worry about that because it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, and it doesn't have very much range, so it's pretty easy to roll as well. This is essentially the strategy against him with the hammer. He takes literally a decade to recover from his attacks, so you can find a million openings to hit him, even as slow as the hammer is. I think the hammer is honestly the best weapon against him because you can deal the most damage at the most precise times. Now, his AI gets a bit weird sometimes, like the pathfinding, so you'll chase him for a little bit sometimes and then just get smacked by his tail. But that's one of his brutal head attacks. That will knock you down if you don't have the rock steady ability. So yeah, basically, you can time super pounds just right so that he will turn around directly into Super Pound for blunt damage on the head, which pretty much just scores points towards your next knockout. That is what I recommend doing, but attacking the mud on his legs and knocking him over for free hits on the head is also something you want to do. Fuck you, bug. Now, you don't really need to paint him. I did it just because it's a good habit, but you can always see where he goes. The little dust clouds that come out of the ground, they will always tell you exactly where he's going, and he doesn't go far. So we're in an area with cats, but that doesn't really matter, because as you can see, this is a pretty up close and personal fight. We don't have to worry about the cats because he's probably going to be headbutting them the whole time. Well, when he's flashed, he really doesn't do much. I mean, he'll do the mud shake, and then he'll occasionally, you know, roar or do the tail swipe, but he usually stands pretty still. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get rid of the rest of his protection with some bombs. Now, bombs, they will do significant damage to his mud casing. And like I said, if you're going to use the hammer against him, it's all about timing. He is very receptive to the distance you are away from him. That is what makes fighting him a pain sometimes, because even though he's very repetitive and he seems to do the same thing all the time, he is very adept at finding out exactly how far you are away from him. Meaning, he knows when to do, you know, the different charges based on how close you are. He knows when to throw you off and hit you with his tail when you think he's going to charge. And now that he's slobbering, this is a perfect time to KO him, because, like I explained in the last video, break your tail, that's right. Like I explained in the last video, when a monster is slobbering, it means that they're exhausted, they're out of stamina. And when a monster is out of stamina, or their stamina is depleted, they last significantly longer in shock traps, pitfall traps, and when you stun them with a hammer, or KO them, as it was called in the other Monster Hunter games. So, I'm pretty sure I activated his rage mode, and that's why that one didn't last very long. But Barroth really isn't that much to worry about when he's in rage mode either. He doesn't gain any new attacks from his rage mode, he just gets stronger and faster. And anytime you see the cats drop anything, I highly recommend picking it up, because it's not always just a stupid paw print stamp or a round acorn. They do drop stuff like first aid meds and rations. Sometimes they drop flash bombs, which is useful. And that was a shiny from him. We got the chine, but yeah, every time you break a layer of, well, not every time, but sometimes when you break a layer of mud off of the Barroth, he will drop a shiny. And as you can see, he encased himself in mud again, but that's okay, because for every time he encases himself in mud, you can just break it right off. And that just gives you more opportunities for shinies. Now, taking advantage of the hammer's abilities is important in this fight, because there are some attacks that the hammer is capable of in this game that can close some incredible distance. His hitbox is so weird. You're going to see me get out of certain things that are just almost impossible in this fight. Like, it happens every time. I say that confidently because it's the truth. It does happen. Like, sometimes you think you're going to get hit and he just misses completely. Other times you're like, there's no way that's going to hit me. And then next thing you know, you're rolling across the ground. So, something you definitely want to keep in mind while fighting this guy is... See, look at that. That should have crushed me right there, but for some reason he didn't touch me. But one thing you want to keep in mind while fighting this guy is... he will cheap you out very easily. He's very capable of combos, as in he'll send you flying with his, you know, charge attack, and then he'll make you stand right up into a second one. He will do that, so if you do not have the fit armor to take this guy's attacks, then I recommend getting something with high defense because he's one of the starter monsters. He's really not that difficult, but he hits like a truck sometimes. Now that's something to pay attention to as well. When you see him back up and pause for a second before he charges, it means that he's going to go a larger distance than a normal charge. When he just straight up throws his head down like that and starts running at you, he doesn't intend to go very far. But if he stops for a second and kind of curls his tail back, that means that he's going to charge like at least a good 15 or so feet. So hit him in the head as much as you can if you're using a hammer, because blunt damage to the head is his weakness. See, right there. He can tell exactly how close you are to him, and he knows exactly which charge distance to use, so he can recover quick enough to attack you again. So you don't... see, thought he was going to charge again, and he ended up using a tail attack. The AIs are incredibly smart in this game once you reach G rank. And another thing that usually gets people is when he finishes a charge, his tail always does that hook to the side. And believe me, that will get you killed. When he does that hook to the side with the tail, it's usually enough to knock you down. And I hate these bugs. If you can at least get one hit on the bug in the area, that's typically enough, because he'll usually finish them off like that. Now, like I said, timing is key in this fight. Getting that super pound perfectly as he turns around. And see, I don't understand the hitbox either. Sometimes it's nuts, but timing that supercharge perfectly so that he turns around directly into a supercharge and then bam to the head. It can be kind of difficult. It takes practice. I'm not doing very well at it this time, but that's usually how I end up beating him if I need to farm him. Now the crown is the item that you want to carve from his head. That item is one of the most needed items from him for his really good G-rank weapons, so if you want to farm for something good, like his hammer or his gun lance, you're going to need those crowns. So this is interesting. For some reason, he has to break this item to start eating whatever is underneath it. But the rules of eating are actually in your favor. If he starts eating, it doesn't count for shit. He has to actually finish eating and, you know, be like, yep, I just ate. He has to be completely done eating and finish the animation in order to receive its benefits. It doesn't matter if he's 90% done eating and you flash bomb him, it will count for nothing on his end, which is good. So we're basically just about to finish up this fight. He's on his last legs. Look at how slow he's moving. He has no energy and he's basically about out of life too. So the method for hammers is just this. KO him as many times as you can. Because for every time you get that... Oh god, watch out for these things though. The Renault claws are so annoying. So he is limping away right now. And he dropped a shiny. The Wyvern tier is not what you want in G rank. That is the lowest item you can get, but it's still points. Now since he's limping, we can technically capture him right now pretty easily. Like, you can capture a monster at any point if they're limping, but I prefer carves over capturing him because he does not have a rare item, like a ruby or anything like that. So I imagine we have about one more KO on this guy and he'll probably eat it. Yeah, I'm kind of sucking really bad at the super pound timing, but it's all good practice. So this right here, he is He's really not hard at all. I mean, don't underestimate him. He can kill you pretty easily, especially if you're not using a weapon that you're comfortable with. If you are using, like, he's a terrible monster to test out a new weapon on. I'll tell you that right now. But if you're comfortable with your weapon and you are confident that you can beat him with it, he's gonna go down. He's really not tough at all. He's pretty slow. He's highly predictable until you get to G rank, and his mud casing breaks pretty easily. And he's down. You get 3 carves from Barroth. And like I said, he doesn't have a rare item. Not that I know of, anyway. I'm pretty sure capturing him is kind of useless unless you just want, you know, more of the particular, more of the casual items that he drops. Yeah, the crown. That is what you want from him if you want to make his good stuff, like his armor and everything. I mean, his tail, I mean, it's something worth getting. I'm sure some of his weapons are going to need the tail, but the crown is what you want if you're interested in Barroth equipment. That's what you're going to be farming for the most. Because everything else you're going to get typically after fighting him. Alright, reward screen. What did we get? Okay, we got a chine, we got some cortexes, we got monster slog bones, more chines, and we got his claws for breaking them. Those are the 3 breakable items on Barroth. His head, his tail, and his claws, excluding the mud barrier, but that is essentially it. The secondary weapon that I recommend against him is the lance, because you can block his attacks and deal damage at the same time, which is awesome. Or you can gun lance him, because gun lance ammo breaks his mud very fast. But that was Barroth. He is easy, guys. Don't sweat. He's not hard at all. Just takes practice. And I hope you guys are liking these newbie guides. I'm doing my best on them, and I will cover every monster, I promise. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next newbie guide.